Has this ever happened to you as a director running your own childcare program? After a beautiful 3-day weekend, beautiful skies, wonderful climate, teachers were excited about having a day off on Monday, and we get to Tuesday, and the phone starts ringing. One teacher calls out. Another teacher calls out. A third teacher calls out. Oh my goodness, what am I to do? I'm a new director. I'm required to maintain staff-to-child ratios. Parents cannot wait to bring their children to the program, and my 2-year-old never missed a day of school. Needless to say, my infant parents are getting their footing back into the workplace, and now I have 3 teachers that have called out. That is something that happened to me multiple times in the early part of my career. I wanted to have an environment where everyone could come, enjoy the holiday weekends. I had additional holidays that some parents complained about because they felt there were too many holidays in my calendar, but I was adamant that teachers also need a day of rest. But what I didn't foresee was that they really wanted that extra day of rest and extended it another day. So I had to look introspectively at my own program. I had to see what are some of the safety nets or some of the guardrails that I need to put in place to make sure that I can manage the absences, and only those true absences that merit a day off or being accounted for. Welcome to Decoding the Childcare Business, where we break down the policies and procedures. My goal for you is to understand from my own personal experience how you can overcome these challenges and create policies in place to be able to overcome them. Surviving the leadership in childcare. Why policies and boundaries are essential. Before I go any further to explain exactly how I was able to turn this around, I'm going to ask you to please don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't already, I really would love for you to like the channel and share it with your friends and families. It is because of you that I'm able to stay relevant in the algorithms and bring you this wonderful content. So please don't forget to subscribe below. Don't forget to like, and I would love to hear your comments. One of the things that I'm putting together is a masterclass. And for you to be one of the first to join the masterclass, you will need to enlist in the website. Go to beyondbasiclearning.com to join the waitlist for the masterclass. It's going to be a limited number of seats because to be personal and to be able to take you through your own individual experiences, we need to keep the class small. Join me at beyondbasiclearning.com, and there you'll be notified of future workshops coming up. Now let's get back to it. Surviving the leadership in childcare. Holiday pay is a real talk for best practices. Disclaimer: the information provided in this presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. It does not constitute legal, financial, or professional advice. Every childcare business is unique, and regulations vary by state and jurisdiction. Please consult with a qualified attorney, financial planner, or professional advisor regarding your specific business situation before implementing any new policies or contracts. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Benjamin Franklin. The reality, folks, is that time off and holiday pay is a real situation in our businesses, particularly because we are adhering to a staff-to-child ratio. It's not like being in an office, a person can have a day off and the boss does not have to get another body to take that place. When you're dealing with the Department of Family and Child Services, you must make sure that you adhere to staff-to-child ratios. One of the best ways that I did that is that I always try to be below staff-to-child ratio because of situations just like this. When you are just at ratio, when you maintain exactly the ratios that the state requires, you do not give yourself any room for the human factor, a lateness in a bus, a child calling sick of that staff worker, that person needing to go to the hospital for an emergency, or simply an illness that has occurred. There are also times that your staff will request a day off after the holiday. And when those days are requested ahead of time, well in advance, it makes sense to be able to know exactly how many children you're going to have in the school, and if you need to bring another teacher and for what length of time. Another reason to have policies in place for the holiday, for the day after a holiday, is because you want to reward those teachers that ask for those days in advance. And so let's talk a little bit about what did I do to protect my program. The golden rule. For me, for a staff to be able to be paid for a holiday, I added in my policy that the staff must work the day before and the day after the holiday. This way, I would be able to guarantee that my attendance at the school will be the highest the day before and after a holiday. It also gave me the opportunity to plan for my own personal day off, or if I needed to schedule a doctor's appointment or a training, I would most likely schedule that on the day after a holiday because I knew that my staff would be there at least 90% of the time. So the golden rule was the staff needed to work the day before and the day after. And I had to be consistent. There was an incident where staff was stuck in a snowstorm and she wasn't able to come to work that particular day. She had personal days. So the day after the holiday, she got paid for her personal day, but she did not get paid for the holiday itself. You have to be consistent because if you're not consistent, then the staff will find the policy to be unfair and you will lose staff because it's not just creating a policy that's important. Are you being fair with the policy? Are you being consistent? Because the way that you're being judged defines the culture and ethics of your program. Many incidents are justifiable for getting paid for that holiday, but you must understand that the policy is there to protect you and also enable you to retain that additional staff. Because look at it this way. A staff doesn't come a day after a holiday, right? You don't pay for that holiday. However, you still have to pay that staff for a sick day if they have available. You still have to pay that staff for a personal day if they have that day available. But then you also have to hire someone to fill in the gap. So you're still paying double. By not paying for the holiday, you're giving yourself a little bit of relief and a little bit of a buffer to a situation that has been written in the policy. The next thing, it has to be written and signed, not during the day that the staff took off. It has to be written and signed during the hiring process. That's very important, and that's why I paused there. It has to be written and signed during the process of hiring the staff. And it must also be included in your employee handbook and signed by the employee during the onboarding process. But I had an onboarding checklist for my staff that within the first 10 days of the staff onboarding to the program, there were a set of requirements above what the state required pre-boarding that needed to be in place. One of those things was the employee handbook, and the employee handbook had to be signed by the staff. I also had a checklist where they initial and sign a separate document speaking specifically about the holiday pay and how the pay schedule worked. By doing this, the staff had clear understanding of what the policies were before they onboarded to the program. And by doing that, the staff and the whole team were on the same page. What are you doing to have the team on the same page? Setting clear expectations. Only pre-approved personal time off were legally accepted. However, doctor's note did not qualify for exceptions. So when you have a personal time off, as long as the staff had personal time off available, I was okay with that. The way that I circumvented that is that I allow for sick days and personal time off to be used interchangeably. Why is that? I had staff that never got sick. I had staff that were always present and they just needed a personal time off for self-rejuvenation, family engagements, doctor's visits. So I did not penalize staff that had personal time or sick time. I treated them the same. So by having personal time off and having sick time, they could use them interchangeably. And then I was consistent in my enforcement. I would ask the staff and my assistants every week, the week before the new month started, I would ask my staff and also my assistant, does anyone want to take time off for the upcoming month? Have you looked at availability? Has anyone in your team offered to cover? Does the morning have to be covered? Does the evening have to be covered? What are we going to do to ensure that your classroom is covered? Sometimes the lead teacher had insight, especially during the summer or the holidays like Christmas and New Year's or Hanukkah, she had insight of whether or not that child would be in school that particular week because they may be traveling with their parents for the holidays, or they may be away because a family was visiting with them. Mostly a grandma or a grandpa will come and visit, and so the child will be out for a few days. When we had that insight, I would offer those days where low enrollment was obvious to the staff to ask if anyone wanted to take personal time off during those days. And if they had the time available, it would be paid. What did that do for me? It allowed for me to give the staff a space to spend down their personal time and sick time in a way that was mutually beneficial. They were not feeling guilty to take a day off. And I knew that my current staff would be able to handle the staff to child ratio, so I didn't have to bring someone else in to cover for those days. That was the benefit of being able to have days already scheduled where the whole team knew when the person was going to take off and the coverage was set. One more thing about the coverage. When a teacher in a particular classroom wanted to have a day off, I would ask her to please consult with her classroom first. And that was really important because at one point or another, everyone in that classroom was going to want a day off. So when they consulted with one another, what it did is that it brought buy-in. Teachers were committed to covering for that staff. There was collegiality and support for that day off. And I knew that everyone in that room was on board with this decision. And if we couldn't find a staff to cover in that particular room, they will bring it to my attention or bring it to my program director's attention. And then we will solicit other classrooms to see if a teacher in another classroom would like to work additional hours. They may want to stay additional time in the evening, or they may want to come early in the morning where the staff to child ratio was the tightest. And that would allow for a bridge of time or bridge of coverage to be done. So being able to have the staff talk to one another and get each other's buy-in and support made it a culture for the program. So then every personal time off wasn't coming to me. They were discussing it. They were arranging it with one another. They were creating backups for one another. They would trade days. Say, listen, I'll need this day off, but then if you cover for me this day, would you be open to covering for me the following day? All of these things were very important in supporting coverage. The reality is that when all the staff is on board in supporting the staff taking a day off or a personal day off, then you're able to control the conversations coming directly to you. It's one less thing that you have to have on your bucket list because you know by the time the staff asks you for the day off, it is because they have exhausted every opportunity that they have to get coverage. And it allows staff to work with one another, build relationships with one another, and support one another, which I found fantastic. And as a director, it took a load off your back, at least for that moment. Holiday time should be a day of rest, not a trigger for staffing crisis. Unscheduled absences around holidays will leave your center understaffed and disrupt families. So when you are able to get ahead of the day off, the other thing that occurs is that the lead teacher will communicate that with the families. I have a scheduled day off on Tuesday. I won't be here, but so-and-so will be here. I'm not going to be here for a few days because I'm going to take a personal time. But please know that Ms. Zuleika is aware of this, and we have the room cover, and the activities will continue as planned. A lot of families think that because the staff took a day off in our industry, they may think, oh, the staff quit, they're not coming back, especially if you're experiencing high turnovers for that particular year. So understanding the cycle of your program, understanding the composition of the students in your classroom will help you understand and be able to plan not only the holidays, but also help you plan for scheduled sick or personal time that the staff wants to take and be able to obtain the proper coverage for those times. Remember, holiday and vacation time is very important. I had additional personal time and holiday time in my schedule because it allowed for the burnout rate to lessen. I didn't have the same amount of call-outs because teachers knew in the calendar that they will have a day off. So it is important to do that. The other important thing is by having days off within the calendar, the teachers also were able to plan their day. I had less turnover, less absences, which caused a higher cost for me in staffing. Absence and turnover is one of the things that eat at your budget the most. So it allowed me to mitigate that. And so by having these clear rules on the books, it allowed the staff to feel that they had a way to enter the space and a way to exit into a personal time that was needed. One thing that was important to me is that I did not make my staff feel guilty for taking a personal day or time off or a sick day. It was important for me for them to use the time in a way that they best saw fit. Teachers need to be able to take a sick day or a personal day. And I would tell them, I don't care if you're across the street, sunbathing, or if you are shopping around the school. If you have the day available to you, use it. Take the time. Because when you take the time, you come back to the school excited, you are rejuvenated, you are happy, you're engaging with the children in a positive way. And that translates to families feeling happy, wanting to enroll their children in the program, wanting to renew their contract for the following year. All of these have scaffolding effects that benefit the school as a whole. So remember, you must have a rule, and it must be in your policy. To qualify for paid holiday time, an employee must work a full schedule shift on the day immediately preceding and the day immediately following the observed holiday. Another thing to note, they must be scheduled for the full shift, meaning they must work full time. However, if I had a part-time teacher that worked with me more than a year, she also qualified for paid holiday time. Because imagine this, you have a part-time teacher that's consistently there every morning welcoming the families, working like the 7 to 9 morning schedule. Or you have a part-time teacher that comes consistently in the evening between 4 to 7:30, which was my schedule. That consistency was so important because she got to know the children, develop curriculum, rapport with the parents, and it also reduced turnover. It reduced anxiety in the classrooms. Lead teachers got to know the part-time teacher, assigned small tasks to them, and the assistant teacher in the evening or in the morning felt empowered and part of the team. So it is important to understand that although my holiday pay was for the full-time staff, a part-time staff that showed themselves to be consistent and working for the school for more than a year was also able to benefit for holiday pay. And that was an incentive to be part of the program. It was a way for me to recognize them, for them to feel valued, and for them to feel part of the team. There was no exceptions. Feeling under the weather, a snowstorm, getting stuck in traffic, still did not qualify you for a holiday pay. A doctor's note still did not qualify you for a holiday pay. You have to have personal sick time on the day that you're sick, and you will get paid for the day that you're sick. But for the holiday pay, you must be able to come to work the day before and after the holiday. No exceptions. Because as a childcare provider, I have to cover your shift. And that is a cost of time for myself and my team. It applies to all staff equally to maintain fairness. It must be clearly stated in employee handbook and signed and initialed. So having a checklist is critically important because this is part of the onboarding package for that staff. Let me take a moment and ask you, is your holiday policy in writing? Because unwritten rules cannot be enforced, and written rules protect your program and your budget. You're going to start by doing the following 3 steps. You're going to start taking action today. Okay? We're going to start by drafting the rule with ChatGPT and Manus. It should not be very difficult. Have a conversation about it with your team before you update the handbook. So if you are already an assistant director or childcare owner, just don't impose a rule on your staff. Talk to your team about it in a staff meeting. Let them get comfortable with the idea. Help them understand why this is so important and the benefit to them and the school overall. After you do that, draft it in a handbook and present it again to your team. Let them read it, open it up for discussion, ask them what the thoughts are. Is there anything there they would like to change? Help them understand the financial cost of the school, and then implement it in your hand. Make sure you get the signatures, because without signatures and buy-in, you don't have a ground to stand on. And then implement it. How do you implement it? You can say, this is going to be implemented immediately. You may want to implement it at the next school year. This will be implemented as a rollout basis. So you decide how you're going to roll the new policy into your program. My advice to you is to do it within 30 days. And any new staff that you hire, will be under the new policy immediately. And so this way now, you have a policy in place that has been implemented, has been reviewed, discussed, and actually rallied around by your organization. Everybody may not like it, but they will understand why you decided to put this policy in place. I want to take a moment to thank you for watching as we talk about sick and holiday pay with our staff, experiences that I went through, and why I implemented these policies in my program. As we continue our journey together, I will share more of these policies and procedures with you. So slowly you start building your own staff handbook and build a robust policies and procedure manual that you can rally around. Don't forget to join the Childcare Intelligence Business Tool. As many of you know, the Childcare Intelligence System tool will be coming out soon. It is a tool to help you budget, plan, and understand how to give raises to your staff and what the impact is to your overall program. This tool will be available at beyondbasiclearning.com/CCIS. Again, www.beyondbasiclearning.com/CCIS. Because you're a subscribed member, you'll be able to benefit of future discounts. So please don't forget to join and add your name to the waiting list so you will be the first to know when the tool will come out. Thank you for watching. Suleika Hines, and I cannot wait to meet you.